Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 more things I think you should know about the powerful full moon happening on August 1st, 2023. Number 1, I wrote down dialing in your manifestation skills. The energy right now is very ripe for bringing things into fruition, things you've been wanting, things you've been intending for to show up in your life. Now's a good time to see them there. And in this type of expansion, manifestation, summary, fiery energy, it can be very tempting to go, and then we crash, and then we fall flat. And what you might be finding yourself learning through sometimes your own physical ailments and fatigue and things like that, you might be learning that there's a balance to manifestation. And sometimes going slower is ironically kind of faster and can make things show up not only quicker, but while you're able to maintain your serenity, basically your balance, your energy. It's funny, I was out to lunch just yesterday with my friend Bridget Nielsen. You may know her, real cool spiritual YouTuber. I recommend you check it out, Bridget Nielsen. And we were talking about how everybody right now, like the collective, humanity, if you will, at least to our perception, it's like they're way more sensitive. And in particular, we were talking about Kundalini yoga and how some of I would say old school Kundalini yoga practices are very extreme. If you've ever tried them or even researched them, they're very extreme. And we are discussing how it seems now in this new energy, that type of mentality, that extremist mentality, that I'm going to transform and heal and transcend no matter what, and I'm going to push myself to the limits. That may have had a place back in the day when people were more unconscious. They might have needed to muster up enough of that fire energy to break through. But now everybody's already up. Everybody's so susceptible to cracking themselves open, spiritually speaking, that it takes only a small little nudge for many people. And what we're noticing, a lot of spiritual seekers are continuing to do, and it's their right to do it, obviously, but are continuing to kind of push and chase the next breakthrough, the next insight, the next epiphany. They want to race to the finish line of enlightenment and heal all of their wounds for themselves, their past lives, and their ancestors like yesterday. So when's the next breath workshop? When's the next past life regression? When's the next ayahuasca ceremony? Sign me up, I'm down. And a lot of people are realizing that this is miserable for the inner child. It's like, what are you doing to me? You're putting me through the ringer. Why do you think you're so tired? Why do you think you're so hypersensitive? Why do you think your emotions are up and down and sideways and all over the freaking place? Why do you think you're struggling to manage yourself in your day-to-day life? Yeah, you're going through an awakening and a transformation. It's going to be like that to an extent. But when we go too quickly towards things, we burn out. Now, sometimes this plays out, and it has for me definitely in the past, especially with working out. This can play out in your normal life as well. I know for the longest time, speaking about Kundalini awakening, now that we're on the topic, over a decade ago, I had a real strong, classic Kundalini awakening, and it threw my body and my mind and my nervous system for a complete loop. I had no idea what a Kundalini awakening even was at the time. But anyway, around that time, I was a real fitness nut. I love to work out. I love to train very hard. It was something I've just always done. But after that Kundalini awakening, my body would not recover. My nervous system was already dealing with a lot from this freaking fiery Kundalini energy coursing through my system. So when I would find myself in this kind of trap, I would try to do these old intense workouts that I once could handle, and I would feel really good for 8 days. I'd be getting back in shape, I'd be looking good, but then 9 and 10, all of a sudden I'm losing steam, but I'm thinking in my mind, you're weak. Just push through it, just like you used to. It used to work. And then all of a sudden, day 10, 11, it's like something is off. I'm getting the sniffles, I'm getting kind of a cold. If I continued on by 12, 13, day 13, I'm exhausted. I'm overtrained, I'm burnt out. And then I'm forced to do nothing for like a couple of weeks. So I lose all my fitness gains and then I'm back to baseline, but I'm dancing on these extremes. And this is a thing a lot of people play out in a variety of ways. Those are plenty of examples. You got the idea. But right now you might be realizing, your body might be sending you signals that this is not the way to go, that something else must shift. And what I'm finding for my own life, because this is also playing out in my own life in other ways, is as all the Zen Buddhist monks have been saying, there's a middle way. It's not about not doing anything. And it's not about maximum willpower 24/7. It's some kind of balance in between. And there's this like fine line we benefit if we can walk. And like when to do what, it's always like whatever the moment calls for. And I'm finding there is a time to push the gas and there's a time to back off completely. It's not always this linear middle path, but it's about trying to maintain balance by being tuned in to what the moment is calling for. You know when you need to back off. You know when you're inspired to move forward. And I'm finding as long as we can stay centered, which is not easy in this energy, but when we can, when to do what, maintaining this balance, which again leads to maximum manifestation and optimization of your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional well-being. It's like I think most of us are tuned in enough to ourselves and to our intuition to operate through life more wisely. Number 2, I wrote down Separate Ways. It's a song, and some of you have heard it from Journey. I'm not going to sing it for you, but it's a song called Separate Ways. And there have been times during my awakening, probably more than I can count, several times I would say, where a relationship, and this could be a really close one, this could be more of an acquaintance, it could be someone you work with, it could be some type of relationship, all of a sudden it's like your paths start to diverge. And it doesn't make sense. It sometimes can come on suddenly, where all of a sudden like you're in cahoots nicely and everything is going well, and all of a sudden it's like you just suddenly see an aspect of them that you never saw before. And it may not be a big deal about like what's going on and what happened and who said what, but it's like you see them in a different light. And it's like, it's very hard to shake that when you know a deeper level of someone's truth. And oftentimes they're thinking the exact same thing about you. It's not like you're just ascending out of their reality. Sometimes it is like that, but a lot of times it's just like, we no longer are connecting, and life is taking us apart. And in the past, what I would do is I would, be kind of in denial of it and like ignore what I kind of intuitively knew was happening because I didn't understand it. And also because of guilt and all my own personal stuff would kind of cause me to linger in a dynamic, in a relationship that was like past the expiration date, we'll say. And then it would, in the past, there had been times it resulted in kind of like a gnarly falling out. Where it's like all of a sudden, like you're getting signs that this is not working, energetically speaking. You're no longer vibrationally aligned. But your mind says, well, we have a history. Well, there's loyalty. Well, I feel bad. Well, what are they going to do without me? And then it's like, there's usually some type of falling out if you cling like that. So I still have yet to understand it, quite frankly. It's something I still go through sometimes, and it's always kind of, again, unexpected and challenging. And I don't know. I sometimes wonder, like, is it me outgrowing them, or them outgrowing me sometimes, or maybe a little, or is it just the fact that there's a lot of souls out there we can connect with and work with and do projects with and do this thing we call life with. We don't have to always have the same little circle forever. And maybe it's just sometimes we kind of come and go with souls, probably more so now than before because everything's accelerating. Maybe that's why it's I'm speculating here. Maybe that's why it's a kind of an unusual thing to like our human nature, because normally we would probably incarnate and be in the same little spot pretty much the whole lifetime. We wouldn't really travel that much, let alone have this type of opportunity to connect with so many different people throughout our lifetime. So maybe it's just something we're getting used to. I don't know. But my point is, I'm just talking about it in case you're going through it, because I know what it's like. It's puzzling. It's sad. It's sometimes intense and challenging. And I'm just putting it out there. If you're going through this, what I've learned, for what it's worth, and I'm no expert by any means, is trust your intuition. You know what's going down, and let it be, and go with the flow. I'll just say that. Number 3, I just want to point out that it is kind of an intense energy, even especially looking at what I was just talking about. It's kind of an intense thing, but it is an intense energy. And sometimes during intense energies, which is, I can't really explain for you, but I'll just call it that. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes we have like off days, like a stereotypical bad day that we don't know. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if there's any lessons necessarily. I'm just having a crummy day. I had this therapist named Vinny Richards, this cool addiction counselor a long time ago when I was living in Florida. He'd be like, Victor, you get 10 bad days a year. He was like, 10 days out of the year just are not good. And he was telling me, because I was recovering from addiction, and it's like, he knows that sometimes those bad days can cause people to relapse and things. So he was letting me know, like, listen, sometimes when you get a bad day, you don't have to overanalyze it. You don't have to call me and text me, Vinny, what's happening? Something's coming up. Sometimes we have off days, and it's all good. And it's just, maybe that's me and Vinny's subjective experience. I'm curious how you feel. But I had a couple of those this last week. Just random bad days where I was just I was like disconnected from my center, and then problems were coming into my life, seemingly like annoying inconveniences, one after the other, that seemed to have no real purpose. At least I can't see one now. Maybe there is one. But anyway, remembering what Vinny said, for me, it helped. It helped not to feel like, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I'm off track. All this stuff used to go through my head, these like scenarios, these judgments, because I need to have all perfect days, right? So it's like just knowing that it's cool. Vinny's little 10-day theory, it really helped take the edge off for myself. So I just wanted to throw it out there in case you guys are having you all are having like a bad day and you don't really know why. Just a bad day. It's a really good time, number 4, to clear space. Like literally, maybe in your like home or something, but it's more energetic. For example, we got like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, we got new outdoor furniture for our back patio. And prior to that, what we had instead, we had like an old kitchen sort of setup we just put out there for like a year. It was like a glass kitchen table with this little like leather sectional. It was weird, but anyway, it was getting beat up by the sun. It got all like warped and everything, and we finally got new furniture like 2 months ago. And instead of like moving the old stuff, we kind of piled it up, just sort of in a random corner on our porch. And I went out there today to like meditate and to get some sun. It was early in the morning, first thing. I have this little routine I generally do. And I looked around. We also have a puppy, as I mentioned, and he's got his toys everywhere. And there was actually a grease stain. My child spilled grease, so there's a bunch of towels hanging. And I was like, I cannot be back here because the clutter, it was just driving me insane. It was energetically the opposite of feng shui. So even though it was early in the morning, I haven't even had my little espresso shot yet. I organized the backyard and kind of it required like some physical labor. But after that, it was like immediately like, it was so amazing how much better I felt in the presence of a somewhat organized back patio. So my point is, what I have sensed happens to me sometimes, and I would imagine it does for you maybe as well, is as I change and grow, as my vibration, if you will, becomes higher and more sensitive, I'm more sensitive to even clutter of the simple nature, as I mentioned. The lack of feng shui throws me off. It gets into my own, it almost like reflects itself in my mind, in my state of being, is like a representation of the physical clutter I allow to be in my life. Now, sometimes it's simple, like what I just described. I've had other times where it's like clearing out an old, it reminds me when I like I used to grow marijuana in my basement, as I mentioned, for my job. And I knew it was time to quit. And eventually I like stopped growing. But for like 2 months, I just left it all down in my basement. My entire basement was converted to like this big, huge grow room. And all the plants were like they were dead and they were getting mold. And it was this nasty, huge freaking mess. And finally, I felt like I had, kind of like earlier today, I just got to freaking deal with this mess. And don't worry, this applies to you, even if you don't have a big mess necessarily. But what I found is as I was like cleaning up the grow room and creating more and more space, taking down the walls and things like that, not only did it make sense and feel better for obvious reasons, because I'm cleaning up an actual mess I had to deal with, but it was like, just like I said before, this energetic weight was off of like my shoulders, and I felt like almost like I snapped back into vibrational harmony with like my true self. I know it sounds kind of abstract, but I feel like it by decluttering my physical life, I'm decluttering my vibration, allowing it to raise, allowing it to tap into other dimensions of my spirit. And as I was breaking down the grow room, freaking awesome insights, downloads, epiphany, many inspired ideas just firing up, welling up organically from within myself. So I did my best to describe that energy, but it's a great time to create energetic space in your life, maybe literally. And as you do so, expect to be like recharged up with more of your spirit energy, which, as a little side note, can also tire you out. It's kind of an ironic thing. It's like when we snap back in to the fullness of our being, it's all of a sudden there's a lot of energy coursing through us, and it can kind of lift us up, and then we kind of crash a little bit. And there's this adjustment period to this higher frequency energy that's going through our body. I know I hope that didn't come off too confusing. Hopefully that made some sense. But as I verbalized it seemed like it's a weird phenomenon to describe. So anyway, I'm going to move on. And finally, it's going to sound also kind of out there, but I think you're going to dig it. Valuable, life-changing insights from the stuck. What I mean by that is sometimes we align ourselves to circumstances that are not fun, that are not favorable, that we feel stuck in. We wonder why. I know this isn't right for me. I feel it's not compatible. I'm getting all sorts of synchronicity to like change, to move, or whatever, but I can't. I actually can't. I am stuck. It's kind of a funny thing. A lot of times, I did a lot of one-on-one coaching for a long time there with people. It was like awakening coaching. People literally going through a spiritual awakening that I was helping them kind of navigate through it. And that was like my gig for hundreds and hundreds of clients probably. And there was this situation that so many people found themselves in. It's also a metaphor for what I'm going to discuss, trying to imply here. Regardless of their age, is a lot of people within like a few years after their spiritual awakening somehow found themselves living with their parents. Like they have to live with their parents or someone that's not ideal. Maybe like their sibling or like a roommate that they don't align with. And it's like they would think like the first step, Vic, we're coaching, right? First step is I got to get out of this situation. But what I learned about that is whenever I could feel that with somebody, I knew, because I also have been there in different ways myself, not with my parents necessarily, but I've been stuck as well. And the answer I learned isn't like, how do I shift out of it? How do I change this? How do I move on? It's, what am I meant to learn while here? Sometimes while we're stuck, even though it is not fun, it has its own bag of problems and inconveniences, but there's something worthwhile there to learn in this sort of stuck situation. This can also be from like a nagging physical ailment. Maybe your back is messed up and you're in bed for like 3 months. Why, God, why? It's probably a powerful soul lesson, or many soul lessons, maybe patience for some of you as an example. But there are like valuable qualities we cultivate while stuck in situations, a variety of different natures, obviously. And I found that, ironically, the sooner I own it and learn the lesson, become an eager student, the faster it goes away. And then also, looking back, I can always see the purpose of it. There's always a purpose to everything we do. Even when we're stuck, even when being stuck is preventing us from doing what we think we need to be doing now. We need to take we need to acknowledge what's in our moment first. And finally, I forgot to mention number 6. I wrote down somewhere else on my phone. I'm going to add a number 6 here, is cutting cords. I don't mean that like a lot of the spiritual people talk about cutting cords. I don't know much about that. I understand the concept. I'm talking more generally speaking. You might start to become aware of just how much your environment and the people and the things you invest your time and energy into remain with you in your consciousness. I read this book one time by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And deep work is a concept that the longer you stay on track with one type of task, the more focused you become, the higher quality your productivity becomes. Why? Because there's an echo effect. So right now I'm doing this, right? I'm making a YouTube video. If I was to turn this off and just go right out there and start hanging out with the family, guess what I'm thinking about still? I'm still 80% in YouTube land because it stays with me. So you might find that there are certain things in your life lingering around in your psyche longer than makes sense. And in which case it just requires some type of boundary. And I'll give an example from my own life. I just did something like this about this morning. As I mentioned, I'm an online coach. I help entrepreneurs, and I have multiple programs basically. But what I do every day, and I love doing it, is I go into these different online communities that I'm part of, and I coach people. And there's people asking me questions, and it brings me a great deal of joy. But what I find is that I wake up sometimes thinking about these questions and thinking about this situation way too much. And what I concluded, and it's starting to actually take a toll on my body, it's because the energy is so sensitive. Even one little misalignment like that, it's manifesting physically. It's affecting my workouts and things like that. So I realized I need to set a boundary, not cut cords in this particular case. So I just told them, I said, hey guys, I'm taking weekends off. And they're like, oh, cool. They get it. It was a good message for them as well about setting a boundary. So you might have to set a boundary yourself. You might have to cut some type of cord, cut something out of your life. Because it's not about how much time. It doesn't take me long to be in those online forums or whatever. It's not long. It's the degree in which I'm invested. And the echo effect, the degree of the echo effect. So it's not about, minimizing. It's not about getting rid of that completely, because you're going to have that, just how the brain works. But if you find it's becoming a problem, maybe you're spending too much time with a particular person, and you're becoming too enmeshed. Your shadows are starting to kind of duke it out, and it's like, whoa. It's not that they're a bad person. It's not that I'm a bad person, but the dosage is off. So you might find yourself becoming aware of these types of misalignments as well. All of what I said, a lot of it sounds challenging. The bad days. Bad days mean the energy is so intense and accelerated, which is good for your vibration and life, that you're having these bad days. All what I just said before, all the things I've been saying are literally good. They're these are side effects. I'm discussing side effects of this rapid, powerful, soulful, all-encompassing, game-changing, life-changing, life-upgrading transformation you're going through. And if you're experiencing these side effects, it means you're just going quickly. It means you're a tough soul that can handle this speed, this rate of growth. And we're just doing our best to manage it here. That's why I'm making these videos. But I would advise you not to look at any of this as bad. None of this is something to be waited out. It's no, man, this is a side effect of going quickly, vibrationally, with your evolution as a spirit. It's amazing stuff. So anyways, I'm going to peace out, my friends. You have an amazing day, a fantastic week. I'll see you soon. Peace.